The great journey of humanity had entered a new chapter. For thousands of years, our ancestors had lived as hunters, gatherers, and explorers of the mountains. They followed the rivers, tracked migrating animals, collected wild plants, and survived by understanding the changing moods of nature. The ancient valleys of the Karakoram had already witnessed the arrival of the first human families. They had crossed difficult mountain paths, learned the secrets of stone, mastered the power of fire, and created the earliest memories carved into the landscape. But around 8000 BCE, a quiet revolution began. It did not begin with armies, it did not begin with kings, it began with a seed. A tiny seed placed into the soil would eventually transform the entire human way of life. The people who once depended only on what nature provided slowly began learning how to grow their own food. The wandering footsteps of ancient families would gradually become the foundations of permanent communities. This was the beginning of the Neolithic Age, the age when humans began farming, raising animals, and building settlements that would connect generations together. The transition from hunting and gathering to farming was not sudden. Our ancestors did not abandon their old ways overnight. They continued hunting mountain animals. They continued gathering wild berries, roots, and plants. They continued following the rivers that had guided their ancestors for thousands of years. But their relationship with the land was changing. Through countless generations of observation, people began understanding the secrets hidden within nature. They noticed that seeds from certain plants could grow into new plants. They learned that some areas produced better harvests than others. They discovered that water, sunlight, and fertile soil could help life return again and again. Slowly, humans began assisting nature. The first farmers carefully selected seeds from the strongest plants and placed them into the ground. They protected young crops from animals and waited patiently for the harvest season. This was a remarkable moment in human history. For the first time, people were not only searching for food, they were creating it. The earth became a partner, the fields became a source of hope, and the future of humanity began to change. The mountains of Gilgit Baltistan offered a unique environment for early communities. The powerful rivers flowing through the valleys provided fresh water. The surrounding mountains offered wild resources, while fertile areas near rivers gave people opportunities to grow crops. As farming became more reliable, the need to constantly move began to decrease. Temporary camps slowly transformed into permanent homes. Families began building stronger shelters using materials available around them: stone, wood, mud, and animal hides. A place that was once only a stopping point during migration became a home. A home became a village, and a village became a community. Inside these early settlements, life began to take a new shape. People woke up knowing where they would spend the day. They cared for their fields. They repaired their tools. They stored food for future seasons. Children grew up in the same valleys where their parents and grandparents had lived. For the first time, humans became deeply connected to a specific place. The mountains were no longer just a landscape they crossed. They became their homeland. Farming required patience and knowledge. The early farmers learned through experience. They watched the changing seasons. They studied the clouds and rainfall. They understood the importance of rivers and fertile soil. Different regions developed different crops depending on their environment. Across ancient Asia, early farmers cultivated important grains such as wheat and barley. These crops became essential sources of food and allowed communities to support larger populations. A successful harvest brought celebration. Families gathered together to collect their crops. The grains were carefully stored for the coming months. Every harvest represented survival. But farming also brought new responsibilities. A poor harvest could create hardship. Too little rain could threaten entire communities. A sudden change in weather could destroy months of work. The farmers learned that controlling nature was impossible. Instead, they learned to work with it. While plants were transforming human life, another great change was happening with animals. For thousands of years, humans had hunted wild creatures across mountains and valleys. But slowly, some animals became part of human communities. Goats and sheep were among the first animals that people began raising. These animals provided more than food. They provided milk for nourishment, wool for warmth, hides for clothing and shelter, and a reliable source of survival during difficult seasons. The relationship between humans and animals became one of cooperation. Herders learned to protect their animals from predators such as wolves and snow leopards. They guided their herds toward fresh grasslands. They moved with the changing seasons. Across mountain landscapes, a new way of life emerged. The shepherd became a guardian of both animals and tradition. The Neolithic Age was not only a revolution in farming, it was also a revolution in human creativity. Stone tools became more advanced than ever before. Instead of simply breaking stones into sharp pieces, people learned to grind, polish, and shape them. They created stronger axes for cutting wood. They developed better tools for farming. They made grinding stones to process grains into flour. Every tool represented human intelligence and adaptation. Another important invention changed daily life forever: pottery. People discovered that clay shaped by human hands could become strong containers when heated by fire. These clay vessels allowed families to store grains, carry water, and preserve food. This simple invention gave communities greater security. Food could now be saved for future seasons. Resources could be protected. Life became more organized. The hands that once only created weapons for survival were now creating tools for building a future. Although villages became permanent homes, humans never stopped exploring. The ancient mountain passes remained important pathways. People exchanged stone, minerals, animals, tools, and ideas with neighboring communities. The same routes once used by migrating families now became routes of communication and trade. The mountains that appeared to separate people actually connected them. Different communities learned from one another. They shared farming techniques. They exchanged materials. They developed cultural traditions that would continue for thousands of years. The foundations of future trade networks were beginning to appear. Long before famous historical routes crossed these lands, ancient people were already creating connections across the mountains. By around 3000 BCE, the world had changed dramatically. The descendants of the first hunter-gatherers had become farmers, herders, craftsmen, and builders. They had transformed valleys into homes. They had transformed seeds into harvests. They had transformed temporary camps into permanent communities. The Neolithic Age was not simply about farming. It was about a new way of thinking. Humanity learned that survival was not only about adapting to the environment. It was also about carefully shaping a relationship with it. The first farmers planted more than crops. They planted the foundations of villages. They planted traditions. They planted the future of civilization. The story of Gilgit Baltistan was no longer only a story of survival in the wilderness. It had become a story of creation. The mountains that once challenged humanity became places where communities grew, ideas developed, and cultures began to form. From the first stone tools to the first fields, from wandering hunters to settled farmers, humanity had taken one of its greatest steps forward. But another transformation was waiting beyond the horizon. As villages grew and communities became more connected, new technologies would emerge. Stone would eventually give way to metal. Small settlements would move toward larger societies. And humanity would enter another extraordinary chapter, the age of copper, trade, and early civilizations. The journey had only begun.